I'm wondering, Kuntun Sathit, whether the General Border Committee and the Joint Border Committee, Thai-Cambodia, will finally meet in Indonesia or not, looking at the chaos in Parliament today.
It's looking increasingly like an issue of much ado about nothing
yes,
by the Thai politicians themselves. The question we are asking ourselves today is whether we can go to that meeting in Indonesia without parliamentary approval of this MOU, so-called MOU of the previous meeting.
Yes.
As far as our legal experts are concerned, we do not want to. We do not need to have Parliament approve that MOU at all. No.
You mean the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding between Thai and Cambodia, do not constitute a treaty under the Constitution?
Because there's something signed by some lower-ranking officials. It's not a treaty signed by head of state or foreign minister of Thailand.
Why is it then that the Prime Minister, Kun Apisit, is so anxious to get it passed by Parliament?
Because there's some threat from the protest, yellow shirt protesters.
Yes.
Of course, that one. And it has been a tradition by the Thai governments over the past few years to have anything at all that concerns Thai, Cambodian, or Thai issue with the neighboring countries to be approved by Parliament, because there's some kind of paranoia among the Thai politicians, partly because of the Constitution.
But my understanding is there is a precedent. Thai allows, sign more or less the same kind of MOU, and with Burma also some, a similar version of MOU, but and they didn't have to get parliamentary approval.
It doesn't have to get through Parliament to begin with, but when it comes to the issue of Thai Cambodia, there's no wonder why the Thai Prime Minister Kun Apisit is so paranoid about it.
So
it's a very sensitive issue.
So are we going to Indonesia to meet the Cambodians or not?
Actually, he can go to Indonesia, but there will be no problem about that. We have checked legality of this issue, and everyone come up with the same answer.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister can go there, the Foreign Minister can go there, and nothing will happen. But of course, if the government want to play game, want to delay it.
Yes.
Because of the timing, this is we were really close to a general election.
I think that probably is a real reason behind the motion about this MOU, about parliamentary approval, because election time is close. Campaigns are starting. And the government, the Democratic Party, does not want the Pheu Thai Party to attack it in the campaign about this issue, because the voters could get very confused. Even if, the government say, oh, it's nothing to do with parliamentary approval, but it could become an issue.
Yeah, but I think Pheu Thai Party should be the least of the concern. Because
you mean the yellow shirts?
Yellow shirt is
PAD?
Of course, the PAD is a bigger concern than the Pheu Thai Party.
The PAD is not running. The New Politics Party is running, perhaps, but the PAD and New Politics Party are not really on talking terms, are they?
Of course, but when it comes to the Pheu Thai Party,
yes,
they more or less have some fingerprints in the current mess of Thai-Cambodian issue. So Kun Apisit can rest assured that the Pheu Thai Party will not raise this issue during the election campaign.
So what are they worried about?
Well, maybe they want to delay it until after the election. This is not a good time to go into the election and have this as a monkey on his back. The Prime Minister may want, okay, I'm dissolving Parliament anyway, so maybe it's better to delay it until after the next election.
So the fact that the Parliament has not been able to meet because of the lack of quorum, does it have anything to do with the government's strategy, tactics?
It could be because if you look back, it's government MPs who asked the Constitutional Court to consider whether they need approval of Parliament first.
Yeah.
So it seems that the government is playing game and then getting entangled in its own doing.
Yeah. The Constitutional Court has ruled that it's not going to take up this issue.
Yes.
Let Parliament decide.
Yes.
Yes. Now, Parliament wanting to decide cannot decide because it has failed to have a quorum for the meeting.
Yes,
And
and it seems that the government is using that as an excuse, maybe for not going to Indonesia next week.
Yes.
Actually, they don't really need anything like that to go into that meeting at all.
It's a mess.
We already had 3 JBC meetings in the past.
Yes.
And they didn't have to have parliamentary approval of anything.
Yeah.
But now it's become a big issue at the moment. Everyone is arguing whether we can go to Indonesia without parliamentary approval of the MOUs.
Now you clarify for me, General Border Committee and the JBC
Commission.
Yes.
This is a lower, so-called lower ranking border committee. We're concentrating on this JBC, the so-called Joint Boundary Commission, which
headed by Foreign Minister, the Foreign Minister.
High-ranking officials.
Okay, not the military.
Not the military.
Okay, so these are the two sides, Cambodian and Thai, that would talk about the MOU.
Yes, the last meeting took place in Phnom Penh in 2009.
Yes.
And the problem took place because at that meeting or a meeting before that, they brought the Khao Pravihan issue
into the
JBC forum, despite the fact that traditionally they would leave difficult issue outside the JBC so that anything else can go ahead. And that previous meeting, they brought in this Khao Pravihan issue into the JBC consideration. So the problem took place ever since.
So it's now a deadlock. The Thai military leaders say they don't want to go to Indonesia because they don't want a third party to get involved. Now the JBC, which is on the foreign ministry's level, says that they don't want to go without parliamentary approval, and they're not going. So finally, they might not have a meeting at all in Indonesia.
Well, and what is interesting is that Cambodia itself, they don't want to join this meeting in Indonesia that much because they want a higher level of meeting.
At the UN level.
But since they are seeing a problem taking place among Thai politicians, they're acting like a good boy. They said, okay, we want that meeting. We want to go to Indonesia to have this meeting.
So it's really what you called much ado about nothing. And it's a political game, and we don't know who is doing what.
What will be more complicated is that the Prime Minister is dissolving Parliament in the 2 or 3 weeks' time, and you know, the Bahrain meeting of the World Heritage Committee.
Coming up in June?
In June.
Yes.
And then before that, in May, on the 25th, if I remember correctly, there will be another Thai-Cambodia bilateral meeting on Khao Pravihan itself. So there will be a question of who will, should Thailand go ahead with that meeting, because by then the government must have dissolved parliament already. Should we send our outgoing cultural minister to attend that meeting or not? It will be really complicated.
The paradox is that the government, which has been attacked by PAD, may now be using PAD to delay the whole thing for its own political benefit.
Of course, everybody is using everybody.
Yes.
And the Pheu Thai party also. You know, everybody is making...
Yeah, it's really a mess because the gist of the issue is very simple, and that is that Thai and Cambodia should sit down and discuss the MOU again so that they can clarify and they can pinpoint the issues and they can agree to disagree. But now even the fact that they can meet is in question. Now Indonesia is trying to, as chairman of ASEAN, is trying to serve as the facilitator, is totally confused because the Thai side say we have political problem at home, we have the parliamentary approval issue. Cambodia, although not that happy about meeting in Indonesia, has no choice because if they cannot even meet in Indonesia, don't expect Thailand to go all the way to the UN level to meet with Cambodia. So we shall see how this will play out. But for the time being, I think Kun Tunsatit and myself can tell you that nothing is going to happen except a lot of noise, and it's very, very frustrating noise indeed.